How you doing, everybody? I am Jay Enterprise. In this March of the Kings video, I want to take a look at the amount of daytime battles versus nighttime battles in the Godzilla franchise. One of the biggest complaints about the Monster vs. Godzilla movies is the lack of daytime scenes. Specifically, the lack of monster fights that take place during the day. Kong Skull Island gave us a taste of daytime MonsterVerse action. However, we have yet to see legendary Godzilla throw down during the day. Now, this got me thinking, how many daytime fights and how many nighttime fights have there been throughout the 67-year history of Godzilla? And which kind have we gotten more of? So I went through all of the live-action movies to see just how many day fights and night fights there were, and to see which ones we got the most. Now, I must point out that what qualifies as a fight can be a matter of opinion. For this video, I'm obviously playing by my own rules. There are certain monster interactions throughout the franchise that I'm not considering to be a fight technically. For example, the first ever meeting between Kong and Godzilla in King Kong vs. Godzilla. Because there was never actually any physical contact between the two, I'm considering this more of a confrontation than an actual fight. Therefore, the total fight count may be different depending on an individual's own criteria. Okay, now without further ado, let's see how many day fights there are compared to the amount of nighttime fights in the live-action films of the Godzilla franchise. The first monster battles to take place in the Godzilla franchise was between Godzilla and Anguirus in Godzilla Raids Again. Their first battle took place during the day, and then later on, their battle in Osaka, one of the most animalistic fights in the series, took place at night. As I mentioned before, we're not going to count this first confrontation between Kong and Godzilla because technically they didn't make any physical contact. There was a nighttime battle between Kong and the giant octopus, but the only fight between Godzilla and Kong was at the base of Mount Fuji during the day. Both battles for Mothra vs. Godzilla took place during the day, the first one between Godzilla and Mothra in the middle of the film, and then the final battle between Godzilla and the two larvae. I'm counting two fights for the next movie, Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, the first being Godzilla vs. Rodan, taking place during the day, and the big finale monster battle royal with Mothra, Rodan, Godzilla, and Ghidorah that also took place during the day. There were two fights in Invasion of Astro Monster, the first one taking place on Planet X during the night, but not just any night, Space Night! And of course, the big finale battle that took place during the day. The first monster fight from Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster took place during the night, and then I will count Godzilla's little skirmish with the giant condor, which took place during the day, and then the final fight with Ibara during the day as well. I'm going to count three fights for Son of Godzilla. The first one when Godzilla fought the Gigantus coming to the rescue of Minya, and then there was this little skirmish between Minya and a Gigantus. Didn't last very long, but I'll count it. And then the final battle between Minya, Godzilla, and the Spiga. All three took place during the day. Destroy All Monsters had another daytime battle, and it was the only fight from that movie, but it was an epic one. We come to All Monsters Attack, or Godzilla's Revenge, which featured a lot of stock footage. I'm not going to count any of the stock footage battles. So for this movie, I'm going to say there was three separate monster fights. The first two between Minya and Gabara, and then I'm going to count the Godzilla vs. Gabara fight as a separate battle as well. That makes three fights for this movie, all taking place during the day. Godzilla vs. Hedorah had three monster battles, the first one taking place at night, and we'll count this little fight as well, taking place during the day, and then we'll count the finale as one big long battle, taking place at night. One of the longest monster fights to take place in the series was in Godzilla vs. Gigan, taking place entirely during the nighttime. Godzilla vs. Megalon is another one of those movies that we're definitely taking my own criteria into consideration. I'm giving this movie four separate fights. The first, Megalon and Jet Jaguar. The second, when Gigan arrived and made it 2-on-1. And then we get the tag team of Godzilla and Jet Jaguar versus Megalon and Gigan. We'll count that as the third fight. All three of those taking place at night. But then the final fight leaks over into the daytime, so we'll give the daytime fights a point too. The first fight from Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla was the curb stomping that Mechagodzilla delivered to poor Anguirus. That took place during the day. The next fight was at night. That was the first fight between Godzilla and Mechagodzilla. The third fight was the battle between King Caesar and Mechagodzilla. And the final fight, which saw Godzilla teaming up with King Caesar, take on Mechagodzilla in the daytime. There were two fights from Terror of Mechagodzilla, one during the night and one during the day. The first one was between Godzilla and Titanosaurus, and then the final battle between Titanosaurus, Mechagodzilla, and Godzilla during the day. The first monster fights to take place in the Heisei series was in Godzilla vs. Biollante. They squared off twice during that movie, both times taking place at night. Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah had two monster battles, the first one between Godzilla and King Ghidorah, and the second one with Godzilla squaring off against an upgraded Ghidorah dubbed Mecha King Ghidorah. Both of these fights took place during the daytime. The next film in the series was Godzilla vs. Mothra, The Battle for Earth. The first fight in this film took place during the day, and it was a battle at sea, as Godzilla battled the Mothra larva and was later joined by the Batra larva. The finale took place during nighttime, and we're going to split this into two separate fights, the first being the one between Mothra and Batra, and then we'll count the third fight of the movie to be when Mothra and Batra teamed up against Godzilla. I'm going to give Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2 a count of 4 total monster fights. The first one between Godzilla and Rodan that took place during the night, and then a daytime fight between Godzilla and Mechagodzilla, and then we're going to count Rodan vs. Mechagodzilla as its own separate fight, and then the final battle between Godzilla and Mechagodzilla. For 1994's Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla, I'm going to give this one 3 nighttime fights. I'm going to count the space battle between Mogira and Space Godzilla as one, and then there was the rematch back on Earth, and then I'm going to count when Godzilla joins the fray as a separate battle as well. Godzilla vs. Destroya had 2 monster fights, the first one during the day between Junior and Destroya, and then the final clash between Destroya and Godzilla at night. Godzilla returned in Godzilla 2000, which featured 2 battles, the first one between Godzilla and the Millennium Spaceship, then the finale took place at night between Godzilla and Orga. For Godzilla vs. Megaguirus, I'm only going to say there was 1 monster battle in it, as I'm not going to include the little skirmish between the Meganulin and Godzilla. That really wasn't a fight between 2 giant monsters, so I'm just going to count the daytime battle between Godzilla and Megaguirus from the end of the movie. The fan favorite GMK from 2001 featured 2 fights, the first between Baragon and Godzilla in the day, and the final battle between Mothra, Ghidorah, and Godzilla at night. Godzilla against Mechagodzilla had 1 of each, a daytime battle and a nighttime one. For its direct sequel, Godzilla Tokyo SOS, I'm going to give this film 2 fights. There was the one-on-one confrontation between Godzilla and Mothra, with a good portion of it taking place during the day. The final battle between Kiyu Godzilla and the Mothra larva was kind of a continuation of that fight, but that took place during the night, so we're going to separate the 2. So for Tokyo SOS, we're going to give it 1 day fight and 1 night fight. Godzilla Final Wars features more monster fights than any Godzilla film before or since. I counted 7 total. Again, I'm going by my own criteria here. We can assume that there was a fight between Hedorah, Ibara, and Godzilla, but again, we never see them actually make any physical contact. In fact, we don't even see them on screen together, so I'm not going to count that one. So the first fight from Final Wars was a nighttime battle between Gigan and Godzilla in Antarctica. The second fight was also a nighttime battle when Godzilla made quick work of Geno in Sydney, Australia. The third fight was Godzilla's disposal of Kumonga. The fourth fight was his stomping of Kamacuras. The fifth was the 3 vs. 1 battle with King Caesar, Rodan, and Anguirus against Godzilla. The sixth fight was Mothra vs. Gigan during the finale, and I'm going to count Godzilla's fight with Monster X and Kaiser Ghidorah as one singular battle. For the Legendary Pictures reboot in 2014, I'm going to give that film 2 fights. Yes, I am going to count the Hawaii fight as a fight, even though you technically don't see it. I mean, you see it on TV, but it still counts. Nighttime fight, and of course the final battle between the 2 Mutos and Godzilla. also at night. And finally, 2019's Godzilla King of the Monsters. For this film, I counted 4 separate fights. The first, a nighttime battle between Godzilla and King Ghidorah in Antarctica. Then the next 2 were quick battles, one being between Rodan and King Ghidorah during the day, in the air, and then there was the quick underwater battle with Ghidorah and Godzilla. Technically, that one did take place during the day as well. And then there's the final battle, which featured all 4 of the Toho monsters. And even though Mothra and Rodan were kinda off to the side doing their own thing, I'm gonna count this finale as one big giant battle, and chalk it up to a nighttime one. So there's my final tally, 37 fights during the day, and 35 fights during the night. And it certainly looks like we'll finally be adding some more daytime Monsterverse fights as well. What are some of your favorite monster battles? Let me know in the comments down below. Take care, monster movie fans. Big thanks to everyone who watched this video. If you were entertained by it, I'd really appreciate it if you showed your support by liking, sharing, and subscribing.